Okay, so this is all because of the soccer games that are going on right now, and there's something that they have in stadiums. It's called the laola wave or something like that. They call it laola wave. Now, the 2010 games in South Africa right now, I don't know whether they do it or not, but this thing is always like big where you have this drift of people doing the stuff. But anyway, enough talk. We're gonna try to achieve something similar, but not exactly the same thing as a stadium, only kind of close to it. So let's stop the yapping and let's do this. Okay, so we're gonna be doing this whole Laola wave thing. Only it's not gonna be the stadium kind of stuff. It's gonna be more like a billboard or a little signage thing that you might, see in the on the street or something like that. So, to implement this, we're gonna be using a box pretty much. So I'm gonna go ahead and drop in a box. So Control right click box, and I'm gonna try and make mine a little bit square, cause uh, well, that's gonna actually work to my advantage in this particular instance. And I'm gonna make it like 100 units by 100 units by probably one. And I'm gonna go ahead and drop in my TP while I'm at it. TP system, so thinking particles. And we're gonna be trying to get this whole thing systematically done. So I'm gonna drop only one group in my case, because you can use the all group also. Laola wave is what we're gonna call the first group, and I'm gonna create one dynamic set to begin this. And what we're gonna begin is by actually birthing the particles. So we need to birth the particles from the box. So I'm gonna drop in, let me see, I'm gonna drop in a position, because we need to give the particles a place to be birthed. And then on the generators, I'm gonna drop in a born, and that's pretty much all the stuff that needs to be birthed. Now we need position data. So understand that you can drop in a node. That's where the particles position is gonna get position data is gonna be from. And now you need the phase or the volume, or whatever you need, the path. So I'm gonna use a volume position in my case. Why I'm using a volume position is gonna be pretty much visible right now in a few seconds. So I'm gonna drop in the node to the node and the position to the position, and I'm gonna increase the particles. I'm gonna make it a pistol shot to be birthed only in the first frame, and it's gonna be more like, no, that's too many, 150 particles probably. And having that set up, I'm gonna go ahead and turn on edit on the fly off, and I'm gonna put this on wireframe. And I don't have nothing selected for my node over here, so I'm gonna go ahead and select my box. And now you got all those stuff, particles being born right there. But there's no difference between this and the surface position when you tell it to put under the face um, attribute. Now here's the deal: you can actually use the volume. This is why we use the volume. You can use raster over here, and that's what that gonna do is actually arrange the particles in a really neat way. But now actually I think we're butting more particles than needed, because I can see particles, some more extra particles over there. Now what I'm gonna go ahead and do is actually pull up my TP interface again under the born. I'm just gonna pull this to the side, and on the pistol shot I'm gonna just reduce this till I see a number reduced. So if you look at the viewport, you can see that if I increase my numbers, that should be my maximum right there. I don't need no more points other than that, because you can see they don't get birth anywhere else. So 121 should be the magic number in my case. So we're gonna go ahead and put some shapes on this. So under the operators, you can drop in under shape, drop a standard shape, and it's gonna be a cube. So I'm gonna change that to a cube, because we pretty much want boxes or rectangles. But now we need to change the size for this, but I don't actually size but scale, because size actually only is a 1 float value, but scale is a 3 float value. So you're gonna drop in a scale for this, and the scale, I'm gonna go ahead and turn on my meshes. So under the master dynamic, I'm gonna go ahead click on show mesh, and now I'm gonna just visualize this. Now for the z-axis, as of right now, that's fair enough. So if I click on my scale for the z-axis, that's fair enough. We can remain at 100, but we now increase the this right here to something good. So I'm gonna make it like 900. That's good. Make it 990 probably, and that's the magic number right there. And now what you should have is, if I go ahead shade it, well, I got my box still showing, and well, either way you can still see the small boxes. I'm gonna leave my box right there for a little bit longer. Now what I'm gonna go ahead and try and achieve is this. We're gonna be having the particles, the boxes or the rectangles, whatever you want to call them, or the squares, uh, from the middle going outside, each one of them to be flipping. So it'd be like first one flips, then the next one flips, and pretty much you have a consecutive stuff going on. Now somebody might be thinking you can use a sphere to get the effect done. So actually that's pretty true. That's really true. You could actually go ahead drop in a sphere, and right from the middle, from where you want the rotations to be calculated, you can drop a sphere and animate the radius pretty much, and you get the job done much faster. But again, well, we have no job right now, so we need to make this impressive. So when you send a demo, everybody's be like, wow, this guy knows a little bit extra. So now what we're gonna go ahead and do is actually implement some vector stuff. And what I mean by this is that we're gonna go to the help and Autodesk Max 3ds Max help, and I can type in expression, because we're gonna be doing an expression in TP. So on the expression controller, can just double click on that and say display, and I'm gonna just do vectors because that's what I want. And what did I want to check on? No, expression techniques. I'm gonna go to vectors, vector operators, and right here on the bottom I got something called length right here. Length of a vector. So this one gives me a length of a vector. Now a vector is a threefold value, which in 3ds Max could be the XYZ data pretty much. That's how you want to think of it. When you set up the grid, when you set up the, like over here on the bottom, the XYZ, that's a vector pretty much. So all these point positions got vector data in them. Now essentially what you're going to be doing with the length, I'm going to show you something. I'm going to say manage layers, and I'm going to drop in a new layer. It's going to be the active layer. And now I'm going to go ahead and get my grid, my original box, I think that's the one that's selected. And I'm going to go ahead and send the box to center of the world, which is right here. So I'm going to go ahead and move it. I can see the dark lines over there, so I'm moving it to the center. So that is pretty much on the center of the world right now. You don't have to believe me, but it's right there. If I actually go ahead and drop in under manipulators a point, and I make the to sit it right in the middle, it sits exactly where my grid center is also. So just to prove that it's actually, you see, it actually does my grid selected, and the point sits exactly where the thing is. So that's going to be center point for where we want to get the length of the vectors. So I'm going to go ahead and take a tape, and I'm going to show you, like, assume the tape is a vector. So it's going to calculate the distance for that vector. So that's one length. Then that's another length, with the length being the vector. Over here, the green line that you see over here. And I'm going to go ahead and delete that because it's still green also. Then I'm going to go ahead and show you some more stuff. So assuming these are all lengths from the middle of the curve, some of them are longer than others, obviously, and some of them will be way longer than others. So some of them will go all the way to the very end over here. And just to drop a few more, and last you're gonna drop that. So now you got a lot of vectors, assuming these are the vectors. So pretty much what you have now is what you do have right now is point vectors which are actually in length. That's the length of the vectors from here to here. If I click on this and go to the modify, if I can actually get the ruler exactly, it should give me the length. As you can see, the length of the line, which is the ruler which it measured. But actually we want to use the same data only in an expression to extract the data from how far the point is. That in our case, like this particular point, this particular point, you want to get that length and calculate that in an expression in TP and manipulate the data using that. So I'm gonna go ahead, go back to my TP, and having that in, having known all of that stuff, we're gonna go ahead drop in a new dynamic set, and our particles are getting the all group in all put up in the all group. So I'm gonna go ahead drop all, and what we need to do next is drop in a point 0.3. Why, you may ask, a point 0.3? Well, point 0.3 is 0, 0, 0, and pretty much my particles start from the 0, 0 center point. As you can see, it's right in the middle. That single point right there, that's why I use the square in this particular instance, because it's gonna create a more even effect. So I'm gonna pull up my TP, and I'm gonna go ahead drop. Next is an expression, and you might want to